I'm Mary Kaiser. I'm a social worker here at the Johns Hopkins Hospital, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about coping with chronic kidney disease. Dealing with emotions is an important part of dealing with your illness. But first I want to talk a little bit about, before I get into what emotions you might experience, is that I want to acknowledge that our society is a society that tends to view strength as the most important thing, or being stoic. I want to remind everybody out there that it's okay to be strong, but you don't have to be strong. Showing a wide variety of emotions is very important to dealing with your illness. It's important to recognize your emotions and important to know what they are. We also have a society that talks a lot about beating illness. People talk about getting treatments and beating their disease, and that they get a lot of positive feedback from people to say, I beat it or I overcame it. And we want you to overcome your illness, and that we want you to live a regular life as best you can. But understand that chronic kidney disease is not curable. So you're never going to completely beat this illness. What you can do is you can treat it and you can live a long, full life, but it's not something you'll ever completely beat. So I wanted to start out by saying those things because I want you to know that this is something you have to learn to live with, not something that you can completely put aside and not deal with. So in saying that, I want to talk about the impact of illness. So besides the fact that you might be feeling a lot of physical changes, you may not be able to do as much as you could, fatigue or greater things than that prohibit you from doing your usual activities. But when you're diagnosed with a chronic illness, what's more dramatic sometimes is the change to how you see yourself. There's a huge adjustment about dealing with your self-esteem, who you are, what your imagined future was going to be. All of those need to be dealt with, and it's a huge blow to who you thought you were and how you think you fit into this world. And that's something you really need to kind of work with and process over time. So we're going to talk a little bit about all those emotions and all those things that you feel, primarily the loss of control. One of the things that illness can teach us is, well, it might not be a lesson people want to learn, but it is something that's out there, and that's the feeling of control. There's a lot you can control when you're sick. You can do all the right things by following your doctor's medical advice, taking your medications, taking care of yourself, doing all the things that are right to keep yourself as healthy as possible. But even if you do all of that, you still may have effects for your illness. Your illness still may progress whether you want it to or not. And learning how to let go of some of that control that we thought we had in our life is really hard to do, but it's also something that you'll constantly be learning as you move through with your chronic kidney disease and with your chronic illness. And the biggest part of that control is how your future might play out. I'll talk about the loss of the imagined future. And what I mean by that is if you thought that you were going to retire from your job and travel the world or do all kinds of things that you thought you might do, now that you have a chronic illness, that changes a lot of those plans. If you're a young person just starting out and you're diagnosed with chronic kidney disease, you might not be able to backpack across Europe after you graduate from college. You might have to get a job with health insurance right away in order to meet your health care needs. So you have to take some time to kind of think about what this means to you and who does it make you? What kind of person are you now that you're a person with chronic illness? So let's talk a little bit about the emotions and things that you might face doing this. Well, there's a wide variety of emotions, and everything is normal. Everyone experiences all emotions. Some people know about, I'm not going to get into this, but some people know about the 5 stages of grief that have been talked about for years. And people think of life in terms of stages, but emotions aren't like that. You might be angry one day, accepting the next, and then angry the day after. So it's not like you move through an emotion and never feel it again. You feel it all the time. And it's really, really important I talked a little bit about the strength and being stoic and how everyone thinks you need to be that way, but it's really important to let yourself feel your emotions and show them. Because if you don't let yourself feel them, you won't know what they are. And when they do come at you, it'll be frightening because you won't understand what it is. Give yourself some time to wallow, if you want to use that word, or really let emotions wash over you, understand them, know what they are, figure out how to deal with them, or just let them go if that's what you can do, so that when they come again, they're not as frightening because you'll say, oh, I'm just feeling overwhelmed, or I'm just feeling sad, and you'll kind of know what that is and you'll expect it and be able to deal with it better. So we'll start out with sadness and loss. As I mentioned, when you're diagnosed with an illness, there's a tremendous feeling of grief and sadness. You have to grieve who you are because you're going to change. You have to grieve what you thought your life was going to be, because that's going to change. Not that it can't be good, but it's going to change. So you have to go through a grieving process, almost like you would if you lost a loved one, because you need to learn what your life is going to be like now. Now, people who have a sudden diagnosis, you're feeling really good, you're moving around doing your thing, and all of a sudden get sick and have a sudden diagnosis of chronic kidney disease, that's a little different because you have immediate grief, immediate anguish. Immediately you have to deal with what's going on. That's a little bit harder. Some people have been diagnosed for a long, long time, and they've had the chance or the opportunity to take some time to gradually get used to loss and change and kind of figure out how that fits in their life. Another thing you might feel is fear, which is obvious. You're afraid of what's going to happen. You don't know what the future brings. You don't know how you're going to feel. You're afraid of dying. Those are all normal reactions and normal emotions. You also might feel a little bit of guilt. Hopefully you won't, but it's normal. Again, I use that word a lot, to feel guilt, because you might think, oh gosh, if I hadn't used so much salt, I wouldn't have high blood pressure, and my kidneys wouldn't have failed, or if I had just gone to the doctor a month earlier instead of putting it off because I wanted to take a vacation, maybe I would have caught this sooner. We're humans, and a lot of us tend to blame ourselves for things. Please try not to do that. Illness has, no matter, even if you did everything perfectly, you still might have gotten chronic kidney disease, or it still might have progressed to a later stage. It doesn't really matter. It's totally out of your control. What happened, happened. It's a lot of wasted energy and a lot of wasted emotions on the guilt. Now, I'll say this, I'll step back for a second and say that it's okay to feel it for a little while because you have to kind of get through it. But try not to waste too much energy and too much emotion on that. Deal with what's right in front of you. Too much time worrying about what you should have done takes away from your ability to focus on what you need to do. So try to put that aside as fast as you can, but you probably will feel it a little bit. We all kind of do. Anger. You might feel angry at yourself. Again, you might feel angry at your doctor, that maybe they could have diagnosed you sooner, maybe they could have given you a different medication. You might feel angry at the people in your life if you didn't feel they believed you when you were sick. You might be angry at God for this happening to you. That's, again, a lot of people feel those emotions of anger. One thing you most likely or absolutely will feel is exhausted, overwhelmed, anxious, distracted. That all goes along with trying to change and trying to learn new things. You could be feeling depressed, and those feelings go along with depression too. Again, that's a lot of that energy is just normal with illness, and you want to try to deal with that. I'm sorry, Corey, my page is going off.
Yeah.
iCompassion.org, a registered 501c3 nonprofit, is the first free, independent, and trusted online community for people dealing with kidney disease. iCompassion.org allows people to quickly find information regarding kidney disease and treatment options, and to become a part of an online community to get connected, get better, share hope, and give back. Join today and share your story of hope.